Hey, it's Jen Shahade for Run It Once, and today I'm going to talk about a series of charts I made on Excel to improve my arithmetic and speed of calculation when planning bet sizes. I created these charts for myself, and then I realized, you know what, maybe this would be useful to more people, so I'll make a video about it. The concept's pretty simple. It's not about the theory behind bet sizing. Rather, it's just about the mechanics of it. So this could be particularly useful if you're trying out some different bet sizing structures, or if you just want to kind of explore the options and test yourself and see how fast you are at calculating geometric growth, for instance, figuring out all sorts of different ways to get stacks in the river using bet jam with an SPR of 6, of 4, of 8. How fast are you at that? Can you get faster? And are your instincts on what those bet sizes should be, what they should look like, right? And within what margin of error? These are all the questions that I was trying to quiz myself on with these charts. And let's take a look at how I created it. The reason I have all these errors here is because we need values in these columns in order to get them. So what we got here is we've got on column A, we have a pot size of 1,000 in each case. We're just using that to keep the math simple. And then flop size is going to be our bet size on the flop. So let's just input that, and then I'll show you how I made the rest of the chart. So turn pot is going to be what the pot's going to be after our bet on the flop is called. So let's put that in the formula tab. So what we do is we take A3, the pot size, and we multiply it by B3, the bet on the flop. And then we multiply that by 2 because we're looking at a heads up pot. And then we add that to the original pot size to get the pot on the turn after our 35% pot. And after we fix a little typo, we see that it's 1,700, and yes, indeed, that would be 350 times 2 plus 1,000. So we created the chart correctly, and the next two formulas are already inputted. It's basically exactly the same thing. We're multiplying the turn bet by the turn pot size, and then after that we're multiplying the river bet to the river bet size. So let's just put a turn and a river in, and then we'll get the total pot size at the end of the hand. And then we're going to work backwards. We're going to look at and see what the SPR is. And the reason for this is that one way that we can test ourselves is with this column I, this last column over here, where we guess what the SPR is going to be, and then we, based on the bet sizing that we're making, and then we compare it to what it actually is. So here in this formula H, we're going to put in that little formula, which would be, there's an instructive mistake I made when I was recreating this formula earlier. I had to false start the video because I made some kind of typo which ruined everything, which I guess is something we might have learned in like high school or even middle school math, but perhaps forgot. So what we have to do is we have to go G3 minus A3, because that was the pot before we started putting money in it, right? And then we divide that by 2 players in the hand, and then we divide that again by A3. So what we're doing here is we're finding out what the SPR is based on the final pot. And we've got 4. And oh, about 4. And you can just idiot check that by taking 4 times 1,000, 4,000 times 2, that's 8,000 plus the original 1,000. So there should be 9,000 chips on the pot if the effective stack is SPR 4. So you can start to see how this game can be kind of useful, because now you saw you tried to make this SPR. You tried to get all in by the river by going 35%, 60%, 70%. But what if you change this number to 25%? You still wanted it to be all in on the river. Then you would look to making the turn a little bit bigger and the river a little bit bigger, and you could still get that same number. In this case, it's 4 on the dot, and you would win the game, because I guess winning the game is getting it exactly right with no decimal. So let's put the other numbers back though. The other numbers back, and now we're gonna look at this game format. Of course, there are more elaborate ways to, I'm sure, create a game with like real feedback, but this kind of works okay as a hack, as long as you actually try to test yourself. So in the game column, what we'll do is we'll put what we were trying to achieve, which was 4. So we did pretty well. We got 3.988. But how do we calculate how well we did? Well, what we'll do is we'll take the difference between these two items, I3 minus H3, and then we'll divide it by H3. And we'll see that we did pretty well. This margin of error is really small. Suppose we were actually looking at an SPR of like 3.5. Then you could see that we'd be off by, a decent amount. And the reason we're not just taking the difference of these two numbers is because, of course, this 0.48 that we were wrong by, if we're looking at an SPR of something like 9, not super significant, but in this case, it looks like maybe we'd be shooting for an error rate of, let's say, 0.1 or lower. So we would know that we had to like work on this and make sure and keep just like drilling it a little bit more so that our sizings were a little more accurate. And whatever you want that margin of error to be, that I guess depends on your personal preference and what you think is realistic. But yeah, you can't always get in the nose like I did in that last one. So another fun thing to do with this is to look at the basic geometric growth structures, as discussed in a while ago in Bill Chen's Math of Poker, and also covered in plenty of Run It Once videos. So let's take a look at some of those, where we bet an equal proportion on each street. And what we're trying to do here is actually guess what this is going to be, right? You might already know these, but if you don't, then try to guess. And let's suppose that we got this one exactly right. All right, good job. 0. That is deserves, like, if we were playing this with some kind of feedback game, deserves some kind of a big fireworks or stars coming out. Now let's do 2/3 of the pot. Okay, so guess your number. It looks like there's already a pre-built guess here, but let's change that because I'm thinking that's wrong. I'm thinking that's a little too low. All right. Okay, so yeah, it's 5.74. So you see we got our margin of error here, 0.04. And let's keep going. Let's do 0.8. And now guess what this number here is going to be. I'll put in a guess. Although I've played around with this chart a lot, so I guess I kind of know what the answer is going to be. That's okay. I know it's going to be a little higher than 8. And let's keep going. This one's kind of funny because I guess it's not something you see too often, but it's actually the easiest one to just do in your head, because if you just bet full pot every street, then you're tripling the pot literally on every street. So if you're starting with 1,000, you're going 3,000, 9,000, and 27,000. That's an SPR of 13 by betting 3 full-size pots. And as you can kind of idiot check it to make sure that all our formulas are right, it's gut check, I guess is maybe a better way to put it. 27,000 minus 1,000 divided by 2, 13,000 back for each player gets in the middle by betting full pot on each street. So something that maybe people have already memorized, but there are so many different things that you can look at in this chart. In addition to these geometric growth structures, you can start looking at more esoteric bet structures that you might be either facing or executing yourself.